Welcome back to the AAA podcast, the show that gives you access hilarious to everything music, nightlife, and everything in between. My name's Lewis. Welcome to season 2 of the podcast. We're excited to be back. Obviously, a little bit of a spanner in the works, the fact that COVID-19 has happened at the moment, but we are very excited to release some more episodes. We do have a lot in the works. That being said, I'd love to welcome our first guest of season 2, Brynny.
Thank you for having me.
Firstly, do you want to just describe to anyone that doesn't know who you are, basically?
Well,
in 30 seconds.
I'm a 24-year-old DJ and producer from Melbourne. I've made a lot of music. I've played a lot of gigs. I've been to a lot of countries with my music. I did number 7 in the mix in 2016, I think it was. And, I love to party. That's pretty much all I can really think of.
And you've gone from that to isolation right now. How are you doing with that?
For lack of a better term, isolation sucks ass. There's really nothing to do. It's really... it's different, to say the least. It's extremely repetitive and boring, but I guess it just gives me a good opportunity to do all the shit that I haven't had time to do over the last 7 years.
Kind of
take a holiday in a way.
It gives you a bit of time to, I guess, there's projects that you're like, oh, I'll do someday. You can actually do.
Yeah, absolutely. I've found myself getting in the studio and working on stuff that's, that I haven't looked at in, even 3 or 4 years, and stuff that I was like, this is a great idea at the time, and then I just never really executed on it because I was busy doing other stuff.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's really good. It's kind of like catch up, I guess, for years and years of work that I never really got done.
And you've had a few interesting. I think I seen the other day you went to Centrelink, and someone you had a funny story about that as well.
Centrelink. That was a good experience. I think there comes a time in every young man's life that he must walk into Centrelink for the first time, and the other week that was my time. And I was just astounded by how exactly like the stereotypes it was. There was all these. I was behind some guy who was just shadowboxing in the street with his missus who was 3 times the size of him, and then they were all happy and dandy until they got inside, and then they all started pulling out the waterworks when they started talking to their caseworkers, and that was interesting. Some Hastings locals giving some life tips to the other people in the line about how smoking cigarettes down in the butt is a good way of teaching their kids to never waste anything.
Oh, definitely.
She had 5 kids, and the best way to show them anything was to lead by example, which I thought was very interesting, given the circumstance. But I don't really hope to go to Centrelink ever again in my life.
I think it was I've spoken to so many people, and like it's crazy that I think as everyone in the entertainment industry, it was within a 30-minute interview or I guess press conference, everyone became jobless. Like just like that. It's just it's
crazy how quickly things can change, isn't it? There's always been lack of security in the entertainment industry, and you ask any kid who says to his parents, I want to be a DJ, and there's always been a certain lack of security in that aspect. People who want to be a DJ or a singer or a songwriter or because we're not following, the conventional method of, growing up, going to school, going to uni, getting a different job. But I think if I look back on it, the only other thing that I ever would have been interested in doing was being an airline pilot. And that would be the only thing I ever would have studied for when I was younger. But, where would I be right now without that? Airlines are more fucked than we are.
Yeah, you wouldn't have a job anyway.
Or maybe if I worked really hard and bought that bar or bought that nightclub or started running that gym or did all that stuff, where are those jobs,
Well, it's kind of like everyone, And I think that's like me personally, I'm accepting that like everyone is in the same boat. There's no point getting like you can't. What are you going to do? Get shitty about it? But everyone else, unless you're in the mines or like you know what I mean, an essential worker, everyone's fucked.
Yeah, well, we've all got it pretty tough, but it's just, I guess, what you make out of your situation. You can either let it defeat you or let it define you.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm going to touch on what you just said just then in a second, but I wanted to also look at, you played at Ultra recently as well, which was probably, I would say, one of the last major festivals to have gone ahead before all this shit went down.
Yeah, absolutely. Even in the scheme of the world,
Yeah,
there wasn't.
Well, it is. There really wasn't anything else that had happened. What was it like to play that? Like,
Ultra was fantastic. It was. This is my third. Not my third year. Second year doing Ultra. I did Ultra last year as well, and yeah, it's always one of those gigs that you really look forward to all year, and it's a really freeing experience because it takes away the aspect of kind of playing to a crowd, because when you play at a nightclub and stuff, you kind of to some extent have to DJ to the taste of the nightclub patrons and stuff like that. But with Ultra, they're very expensive tickets. And if you're buying those tickets and you're going to a certain stage, you're not really just going there for a laugh. You're going there because you want to see the artist.
Yeah.
And it's a freeing experience in the sense that I can kind of play what I want to play and, not expect any, I wouldn't say negative feedback, but, it's kind of, you get to do what you want and not worry so much about, are people going to stay for this song or people going to stay for that song or anything like that, because they're there to see you. If they've made the trip to that stage at that time, they're obviously interested in seeing you then, because if not, then wouldn't they be watching Afrojack on the main stage or something? Like,
yeah, definitely. And I think it is exactly what you said. Like when you play in a club, you kind of have to tailor it to that club and what their tastes are. But yeah, you get to kind of, if you're playing a show at a festival, they're coming to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good in that sense, and it's always a stellar day. All the boys turn up, and it's big excitement getting the Uber in, and then hanging out at a mate's house beforehand, and just hanging out. And then, this year it was a bit of a different crew for me, because last year I went with a lot of my school friends, and that was cool. But this year I went with a completely different group of people that, I'd only met over the past year through the gym.
Yeah.
And that was exciting because, for like a year I was telling them that I was a DJ, but I actually, I wasn't like one of those fucking wedding DJs. I was kind of like, I was a little, above that by now. And it was, good for them to see that I actually was kind of not talking shit. So
yeah, you're actually doing
and maybe
something.
I was worse than they thought. I don't know. I don't really know. It's because it was just good to hang out with a different group of people, and it was a good day all in all.
And would you say as well? Obviously, I'm here in Perth, and there's a lot of people here that plan to travel over and come and see it. Is it what it like? Is Ultra Australia? What's the word I'm looking for? Is it what Ultra is about? You know what I mean? Like, is it what it's built up to be as an Ultra festival?
Well, I mean, obviously it's not as large as, the overseas ones.
Miami and all.
Purely because, accessibility from the Australian public. I mean, it costs us a fortune to get anyone to Australia. I mean, with flights and stuff like that, and the way our economy's built and stuff like that. Whereas, like, in America, they can put together these stages, and they can hire cheap labourers to put together these stages. They could just ship them over from Mexico to build these stages and pay them $5 an hour.
Yeah, and most of the artists are there as well.
In Australia, we can't do that. If you want someone qualified to put together a stage like that, you're looking at, $50 to $60 an hour, and they have to build this stuff in the matter of weeks.
Yeah.
So the cost of putting the thing together is so like exorbitant that it's almost impossible just to even pull the thing off. But in saying that, I think they bring a lot of the core elements that make the festival good overseas is what they did here, with the Ultra Angels and the sponsors of clothing and stuff like that. It's definitely an Australian festival. It feels like an Australian festival. It has the extras in it that make it feel like so much more. Like it's more than what Future Music would be, or Stereosonic alike.
Yeah.
Rest in peace to those guys. But it's a fantastically run festival, and they do a great job of it. And yeah, it's a great day all in all.
I think as well, it as a festival, like I remember, I think if I'm correct, not the one just gone, the one before that, they were obviously doing like the Road to Ultra, so it's obviously not, if I'm correct, it wasn't as big. And I think this year it was like it's going to grow. You know what I mean? Like it's building,
absolutely.
it's building itself up and getting that reputation as well. Because obviously there's like it's on the East Coast, so for everyone that's over here, South Australia, all that need to travel over there. And it's, I think as the years go on, it builds up, more people will want to travel over.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the thing about the Road to Ultra was, I think Road to Ultra was just kind of them testing the waters. And, if they could pull off a show that size, then they could pull off a bigger scale one.
Yeah.
I personally really enjoyed Road to Ultra, even though I didn't play. It was it was a really good day. Like it only had, Road to Ultra was one stage, and it was at the Sydney Mine Music Bowl, which was I love the venue. It was where I went to my first ever festival thing. I did Good Life there when I was like 15 or 16, and I loved that venue. It's just a fantastic, it's a big massive amphitheater, and the way they can organize and structure the production there is really, really good. I personally thought Road to Ultra was one of my favorites. And the fact that I didn't have to DJ was kind of better, because I could kind of let my hair down and just hang out with like-minded industry guys, and we're all hanging out in the same area in the same bar, and that was good. But yeah, they really built on it, and I think to in the future it's just going to grow and grow and grow, which is good that they were able to have their last Ultra right before the lockdown laws kind of really kicked in. Was good for them, because that would have been catastrophic to the business if they hadn't been able to go ahead with that. I don't think that financially that they could have recovered.
Yeah, and you're seeing now there's a lot of people that like venues and even like production companies, and you know what I mean? Everyone's in a very bad spot right now, because no one's getting any money.
It's increasingly obvious that a lot of these entertainment companies and nightclubs and promoting companies are just trying to think of new exciting innovative ways to kind of make capital for one, but for the most part just keeping brand relevance, whether it be with live streams or mixtapes or stuff like that. But it's good to see everyone's thinking in like a kind of refreshing way and just trying to keep the scene alive. Like no one's really given up. It's just it's about adapting, like Bear Grylls, adapt and overcome.
And is that something you're focusing on, like brand awareness and keeping it relevant? Like, are you worried about that with your brand, or are you doing anything about it, or are you just kind of just relaxing, taking a little bit of a break? And
well, currently I should be in New York right now. I should be on a holiday, because I haven't taken a holiday in 7 years, and I booked this holiday last year to go overseas for a month, and I was just gonna putt around and see the USA and enjoy myself. I saved up for a long time for this holiday, and obviously couldn't go, which is kind of good in a way, because I feel if I was in the US right now, I would have fucking coronavirus.
Especially in New York.
Yeah, well, I think I'd be in New York right now. But it was kind of my idea to take a bit of a holiday right now. And, I mean, I've been doing a few things regarding to my brand, but, I guess I'm trying to figure out what's more important to me, whether it be, is it important for me to continue DJing at this stage of my life, or is it important for me to, just take care of my health, or it's kind of a bit, up in the air on what I want to do right now. But,
you have a bit of time to think, and it's kind of it does. Obviously, you go, oh shit, like this is, you know what I mean? When you're not DJing, you're not out constantly, and then you have some time to think and step back. You really do evaluate everything, really.
Yeah. Like, is this what I really want to be doing, or is this, something that, at a certain point it became less of a hobby that I was in love with and more of a job. I mean, there's still a lot of love in it, but is it really, what I want to be doing at this stage of my life? And I mean, a lot's changed in the last year, so it's like, do I want to be that guy that loves to go out and party and DJs and stuff, or do I still want to be on that pedestal and do I still want to do that sort of stuff, or do I want to relax a bit and get pleasure out of other things that I value in my life, such as my family and my fitness and stuff like that. So,
and that's obviously a big thing now, like your fitness and your health. Obviously, I think it was about 5 months ago, put out that video, and you talked about obviously having like heavy drinking, heavy drug use, just going out every weekend, getting completely fucked up, and then going from that to obviously going into a program and stopping and all of that kind of stuff. Have you, like, I know back then, because I think then you said you're almost 6 months from not having a drink then.
Yeah.
Have you drunk since then? Like, what are you doing now? Like, are you still kind of on that road, or?
Yeah, so I did. I think my idea was not to. It was never to live a life of sobriety. It was almost kind of just had to have a mental reset, because it was just constant, like, grievous bodily harm for about maybe since I was like 17 or 16 or 17. I was kind of like wrecking myself all the time for no good reason, just kind of because I thought it was fun. And I guess my outlook on it was that I couldn't last longer than 5 or 6 days without getting hammered. And that was really no way to live, because it was always just get hammered, recover, get hammered, recover, get hammered, recover. And that was obviously very taxing on my health, physically and mentally. It was extremely bad. I think I wanted to prove to myself that I could, go an extended amount of time without doing that, because there was kind of a dependence there on alcohol and substance abuse. And I set myself a goal when I did the program to kind of that I wasn't going to drink until I had Christmas lunch with my family. So I stopped drinking on the 10th of May, and then I didn't drink until that date, which was Christmas lunch with my family. And then I think it was a fitting time, because I was kind of like surrounded by my fam, and I could have a few drinks and then just relax, because after not drinking for 6 months, it was kind of like I was a bit afraid to drink again, like it would just destroy me again. But I needed to believe that I could do it. I could drink without it going over the top, because I was giving too much power to alcohol and substance. So, if I kept letting it feel like it was defeating me, then it was going to defeat me my whole life.
Yeah.
So I kind of, so I did that detox. I went to the gym like every day, like probably, it started off as like 1 or 2 days a week. And then maybe a month or two in, I was going 4 days. And then, by 3 months, I was going 6 days a week. I lost a lot of weight. I was something like 78 kilos when I started my detox. And then I did, I was, working with a really good PT, and I'm still working with him now. And I got down to 64 kilos, which was which was all good fat. Like I wasn't like getting anorexic or anything, and I was in quite good shape. I was pretty defined, and and my mum kept asking, she was like, when are you going to stop fucking losing weight? She was like, you're getting skinny. And I'm like, Mum, I'm telling you, it's all I'm only losing bad weight. I'm not losing the good stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I guess when I got to Christmas lunch, I got pretty pissed that day, and I was running a day party, and I went to the nightclub and I got fucking hammered. And then I got to bed at like a pretty reasonable hour. I think I was asleep at like midnight or 1 a.m. And woke up the next day with my first hangover in 7 or 8 months, and I was like, what the fuck? And then I didn't drink again for another month. Then I had a drink at a gig, and that was fun, but, you know, it's not really worth it most of the time. And then I had a couple of drinks over the New Year's period, got pissed on New Year's, and then, you know, now I'm not sober now, but I'm definitely nowhere where I was at.
Do you appreciate it a lot more? Like, do you appreciate drinking? Because I stopped drinking for a year, and I feel like now I appreciate drinking more. You know what I mean? Like, it's not just a go out, get hammered kind of every weekend kind of scenario.
Well, I guess I enjoyed. Like, I looked forward to the days like when because I would always plan for it, and I wouldn't just like. Whereas before it would just kind of be something you do. It was like, all right, should we go to the bottle now? But like I would kind of plan for when I was drinking. Like on New Year's, I had a New Year's party at my house, and that was fun because I planned for it and I invited people over, and, you know, we had plenty to drink, plenty to eat and all that stuff, and that was good. Yeah, in a way, I kind of guess I looked forward to it more. Now though, you know, since isolation, I've gotten, you know, so I've been in ISO for like probably 29 or 30 days now, and I think in that time I've gotten pissed twice. Yeah. Which isn't so bad, like, considering, like, I know a lot of my mates have just been fucking hitting it hard. Like, I don't drink recreationally, like as a like, I don't just, you know, at the end of the day just have a beer or a wine or, you know, vodka or whatever it be. I think I kind of only ever drink for a special occasion, and I think there's much better balance in my life now because of that.
Yeah.
The hangovers still suck ass.
I mean, they're only going to get worse as the older you get as well. So.
Yeah, no, I know that. That scares the shit out of me. But
it doesn't get better. And like, obviously, like, drugs don't play a part in your life as much or at all anymore.
Look, they're not completely absent. I, you know, started doing this that, you know, that I had to look at and be like, you know, you can't live like that. That is just stupid. Like, the amount of money and shit that I spent on, you know, stupid things for no good reason. I was just like, what the fuck are you doing, man?
But that's like, from those times there, like, have you looked at that now and, like, it's kind of like I don't want to go back to where I was in that position, like, and obviously, like, financially, it would obviously, it's not the smartest move as well. Like, what were your thoughts with that? Like, are you?
Oh, you know, there's a lot of guilt attached to shit like that. That I've, you know, moved on from. Absolutely, you know, that's not something I want to be, you know, be doing to myself, you know, ever again. I look back on shit like that and I think, you know, that was not a good. You know, that was not a good time in my life. And, you know, episodes like that are particularly the things that, you know, I try to avoid. Like, you know, I just think about the dumb shit that I did when I was hammered, and, like, the shit that was just, like, unexplainably stupid, like staying up all night and then getting on a plane and then going to a different state and then playing a gig while I was still awake from the night before, and just, like, it's like, well, who the fuck does that to themselves? Like, it's just stupid.
And upgrading yourself to business class and then sleeping the entire flight and not using anything from the business class. Because I remember you doing that.
To be fair, I always upgraded my flights home from Perth to business because it was the only time that I got one of those lay-down beds. So even when I didn't get completely hammered and shit, I loved business class home from flight. But look, I mean, that business class upgrades really cost me nothing because I had a lot of points. But
not any milk.
I really enjoyed those business class flights home from Perth.
And obviously, like, you obviously, as you said, you're into your fitness and you're doing all of that kind of stuff. Mental health, like, obviously you spoke about that in your video as well. Is that something that you're in a good space? Like, you've got things to cope, like, what's the word? Tools to cope with that as well, or?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the stigma around mental health is that it's, you know, at the end of the day, it's incurable. And people just get better at dealing with stuff. Like anyone who thinks that, you know, they can just take a magic, it's not like a broken leg. You don't just heal it and then everything be okay again. It's more, it is coping tools at the end of the day. You know, if you suffer from extremely bad depression and anxiety, you know, chances are you're going to suffer for your whole life. But you do get much, much, much better at dealing with it. Like when I was, you know, when I was at that 6-7 month period of my life when I hadn't drank or anything like that, my anxiety was basically non-existent. I mean, it was still there, but, you know, it would only come in such short breaks. Like I might feel anxious for about, you know, 40 seconds. And then because I was so self-aware, I could get on top of it almost immediately. And you know.
You found that was more prevalent when you were drinking and going out?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, it was like it contained, like if you look at yourself as a pie chart, and you know 10% of you's happiness and 20% of you's anger, and then you know 70% of you is fear and anxiety. That was kind of what it was for me. But then you know you get to when you kind of you balance out yourself, you know, chemically, and you know, you're not drinking and you're not putting bad things in your body, you know, you start to see more balance in those things. And I mean, I was, you know, happier more often, and I was more easily able to determine what feelings I was feeling, because I kind of was a little numb, for lack of a better term, of, you know, how I was feeling. I was pretty bad at, you know, pinpointing the emotions I was feeling. And a lot of it was just coming out as like misplaced anger and, just, you know, anxiety really, just not wanting to wake up, not wanting to get out of the house, not wanting to do any of that. And, you know, the better I took care of myself, the more prevalent the happier stuff was. And, you know, and if I felt sad, I could acknowledge the fact that I felt sad. I was like, I feel sad. And I could talk to someone about it, and then it wouldn't be an issue anymore, because the only way that you can tackle issues is dealing with them. And if you just bottle them up, they just go nowhere. It affects your pie chart, I guess.
Like, what would you say to someone that you, obviously, like someone looking on the outside in, they're going, well, you're a DJ, you get paid, you travel the world, you get to drink, you know what I mean? And they're going, well, you're living the perfect life, why are you sad? Like, what would you say to someone like that? Because there are people out there, and obviously if you didn't know you or anyone, like you look at a lot of like celebrities and that, and they go, well, you've got the best life, like why are you complaining? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I guess if someone... what my dad always used to say was everything in moderation. And I think that's where I went wrong with a lot of things, because it was a little over, you know, over the top with what I did. I think that people only see what they want to see, and they only see what's on people's Instagrams, and they only see what's on, you know, people's social media, and the people only project their best selves on their social media. Even myself, when I was going through the worst time of my life, I was posting up about, so keen for the weekend, or like rap, I just got this track signed, and, you know, when in reality I was fucking, you know, I was hating myself, and I was like in the worst spot ever, and I just, you know, I was like so isolated and couldn't be fucked with anything. And, you know, people see like, oh, you know, you get to, you know, you get pretty much the whole week off, and then you work on the weekends, you sit around, you make music all week, and, you know, that must be so good. Like, I got to wake up, I got to go to work, and I got to do all this. And I'm like, yeah, well, I think everyone on each side wants what the other side has, because, you know, they look at me as like I'm on constant holidays and I'm just partying on the weekends. What they don't see is the you know, the lack of structure in their lives, and, you know, the things they miss out on. Like, you know, he's like people who get up for work at, you know, 5 a.m. in the morning. Well, I'm not saying that's difficult. I can imagine it's hard working. You know, they come home to their parents or their family or their girlfriends every night, and then they, you know, they come home and they play PlayStation, and then they have a couple of beers, and then they go to sleep, and they do that all week. And then, you know, payday comes, they get paid, they go to the pub, they do what they do. On the weekend, they all catch up with their mates. You know, that kind of structure is what someone like me kind of craved more than anything, because I could get up and then absolutely have no idea what to do with myself for a day. And that's kind of something I've noticed just now talking about it, is kind of what people are doing right now because they're in isolation. Everyone's got nothing to do.
Yeah.
They're all kind of sitting at home with no job and nowhere to go, and they can't do anything. And I can kind of relate that to how our lives were kind of lived, because we didn't have a reason to get up in the morning. And when you didn't have a reason to get up, then why would you?
Yeah.
And that kind of puts you in a bad spot mentally and stuff like that. And, I think it's just the hand you're given, you need to, decide, like, I believe that if someone, wanted this lifestyle and they maintained it really well, yes, it would be the dream. Like they could, wake up every morning and go for a walk and then catch up with their friends and then do all this and do all that. And if they did it right, then it'd be good. But when you add alcohol and drugs to the mix, and you're not feeling yourself until Wednesday or Thursday, and you constantly, you've got nothing to do, and then you procrastinate, and you're like, what for me it was making music. If I didn't feel like making music, I just wouldn't do it, and then that was my job. Like,
Yeah.
You can't really, it's a tricky one. That a lot of people think it's a lot different to what it is, but at the end of the day, the biggest thing, it takes a lot out of you that people don't think about. People see the money and they see the excitement, and that's all they see. But what they don't see is all the birthday parties you've missed, all the late nights. They don't see the weddings that you weren't invited to because they knew you couldn't make it.
Yep.
They don't see the 21st or the grand final parties or the public holidays where they all got to go camping, and they don't see any of that because
New Year's.
Yeah, New Year's especially. Like the long weekends that they hang out for all year, that's what we fucking dread, because it's just more and more work for realistically the same kind of money. I mean, there's the only real public holiday that anyone gets paid more on as a DJ is New Year's.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just they people see what they want to see. Like, I mean, they hustle hard, all year to make their money, and tradies, for example, they hustle hard all year to make their money. They hustle hard 5 days a week or 6 days a week, or and then they got their set holidays. We don't get any of that. We don't get a time where we can just sit down and spend a couple of weeks and do nothing, because if it's not gigs, it's social media presence, and it's marketing, and it's music production, and it's all that. So every little bit of free time that we get is just working on improving ourselves and our brand.
Well, you said as well, you haven't been on a holiday in 7 years. Like, it's because the thing is, you I think as well, when you're in the bubble of like working, you can't go, all right, I'm going to take a month off. Whereas now it's kind of like everyone's taking time off, or you kind of have more time to think and go, oh, actually, you evaluate it. But you know what I mean? You can't just be like, hang on, I'm going to turn down a month's worth of work and I'm going to go on a holiday. And obviously you plan to, but like, you know what I mean? You can't just every year be like, yeah, I'm going to pop away for a month. Because you just lose too much.
I thought, given the year that I had last year, that it would be perfect time to take a holiday, and I was so G'd up for it. But these things happen. Fuck COVID-19.
And obviously now that you're in isolation, you said you're in the studio. Like, are we looking at new music, or are you going to be putting stuff out now? Are you going to wait, or what's...
Well, at the moment, I've just kind of been making stuff. Like, I've spent less time making music that I'm kind of forced to make. When there's outside influence like management and record labels and stuff, you kind of pushed into making stuff that you're not necessarily too crash hot on. But I've kind of just been making music that I kind of want to make. I've, like I said before, I've been finished off a lot of old projects and stuff like that. It's kind of stressful for me when it comes to releasing music, because there have been so many times that I've made music at the request of a record label, or at the request of someone else, and I spent weeks and months of time on, only for the record label to be like, oh yeah, like, this is good, we'll schedule it in for sometime this year. I've had like fucking 6 tracks scheduled this year already, and out of all of them, one or two have come out, and it's just so absolutely like frustrating that I would even waste my time doing this stuff if the other parties involved weren't going to go ahead and, you know, fulfill what they said they'd do. Otherwise, I wouldn't have even bothered making that stuff. I would have just made stuff that I like to make. So it's just like,
you don't want to put the time and effort into
why waste
something.
my fucking time?
Yeah.
Like I've got I got probably like 7 or 8 songs right now that were made for a certain record label or made for a certain release schedule, and just nothing's been acted on. Like, you know, you just stop getting, you know, I'm sick of asking for updates. I'm like, what are you cunts doing with this? Like, are you going to fucking do something with this, or should I just fucking sell it to some younger producer who'll fucking release it himself, someone who's actually, you know, trying to get his music out there? I'm like, because it's just a waste of my time. Like, I've been putting together some music which is, you know, good and different and, you know, exciting, but there's nowhere for it to go.
Yeah, and obviously, if you're signed to it, like, you can't just drop shit. You know what I mean? You've got the label there, but people don't understand that. They don't understand that. Like, you could have a song that's you've written like a year ago, and it may not come out for like an entire year or 6 months because the label is sitting on it, and you just can't do anything.
Yeah, so, and then let's say I release that track on my own, and they'll be like, "What the fuck? You know, that belongs to the record label." And I'm like, "Well, you're not fucking doing anything with it, are you?"
Yeah. Hopefully you do, like, I don't know how, but hopefully we do see some new music, or you can tease some stuff, or the labels release some more. Like, it, especially right now, like, everyone is spending an ungodly amount of time on social media. Like, I don't know what the heads of obviously labels and all of that and producers think, but like, I think this is the best time to release stuff because everyone's at home. Obviously, you can't do tours to add on to it, but like, people are there to listen to the stuff. Like, they got nothing else to do.
Yeah, and it's also yes and no, but like the fact that the music can't be played anywhere right now is kind of, you know, it hinders the growth of it, because, you know, tracks like, let's think of like Pump It Up, for example.
Yeah.
If there was nowhere for that song to be played, it would have never been popular. If someone had to just put that out online, like, it wouldn't really go anywhere. Like, there's a certain aspect of you know, live performance that really makes these tracks do as well as they should. So yeah, like, you know, if you're right, 50-50 in a 50-50 kind of way.
Yeah, I mean, you've got to come up with new, you know what I mean, new ways to. I do understand, like, that's how you release an album or a track.
Yeah,
you tour that track or that album, and it kind of comes a full circle where you release it. Like, you know, I understand that, and obviously people go, "Oh, what's that track?" and so on and so forth. But people are still there. They're right there. They're at their phones. They've got nothing to do. Like, it obviously, even just releasing stuff that's, I don't know, remixes, obviously bootlegs, that kind of stuff. But that's obviously not through a label. But yeah,
it's like also the best way to advertise new music and stuff like that is to, you know, put up a video of it actually being played, or you know, like, how engaged are people going to be to just click on a little picture of album art and then listen to a track on Facebook?
Yeah,
which is tough. But, you know, people are, you know, otherwise really exploring other methods of promoting music and stuff like that. But I mean, a lot of music is found by DJs when they're, you know, looking for new music for their sets, and there's not really any DJs looking for new music for their sets because there's not really any DJs that are playing sets.
Yeah.
Other than, you know, the odd live stream here and there.
Yeah. Which everyone is doing now.
Yeah, well, I haven't done one yet, so I'm doing one on Friday for Made in Melbourne, so that'll be good. It'll be good to get behind the decks. Hopefully I haven't forgotten how to fucking use this thing. But, yeah.
And finally, last question. Look, I think I know the answer anyway, but are we going to see you back in Perth after all of this at any time? Is there any plans?
Well, I was in Perth the other week, actually. That was exciting. I caught up with Ben Delaney.
What were you here for? There was a reason you were here.
An ultra pre-party at some joint in the
city.
In the city.
Yeah, that was the reason why. Yeah.
Yeah, that was all right. I missed the old Perth flights. I stayed at my favourite hotel at the Alex.
Yeah. It's a beautiful hotel.
That was enjoyable. But yeah, that was. I'm not sure with Perth, to be honest. Like we've had all these gigs locked in for the rest of the year. I mean, given I didn't have another Perth date there for the rest of the year, but you know, we don't know how the bookings are going to pick up when all this stuff's over and done. You know, hopefully, you know, everything picks up again and it's all good. But you know, we just have to stay optimistic about it. You know, I don't even know if I'm going to get a gig in fucking Melbourne at the moment because nothing. You know, and it's not only that, is that there's you don't know if these nightclubs are going to even reopen after all this stuff because a lot of the nightclubs are owned by overseas investors and they just have no regard for, you know, obviously the nightclubs aren't open, but the rent's still going to get paid, doesn't it? And the break, the month or two break between, you know, when they had to, you know, I'm pretty sure now that the government's trying to freeze the rents and stuff of businesses and stuff like that. But I think that there was already enough time there while they were still required to pay rent without capital coming in that it was detrimental enough to the joint to already shut it down.
Oh, yeah.
And so, you know, I think that when all this stuff reopens again, it's going to be a whole completely different array of venues that are going to be open and functioning. And, you know, the ones that could survive will be, you know, I'm not sure if when they get back into stuff, like when we get back in the area and stuff like that, if we're gonna go straight out and start booking DJs again, or if we're just gonna use residents for a little while until it becomes more competitive again.
Yeah, well, I think especially for you and like you guys in Melbourne, I think everyone is already a DJ. You know what I mean? And obviously the fact like you've got so much talent, and so many people in one place. I think for you, like especially there, it'll be very interesting to see how it shapes because everyone's out of work, so everyone's going to want work. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting time, definitely. But we may see you back over here at some point.
Yeah, hopefully, man. Like you know, there's nothing in the woodworks right now, but you know, let's hope so. I need some of that good Perth weather.
Yeah. Use those velocity points. They'll be useless quite soon. So
yeah, I'll use all my flight credits for Virgin Australia.
Yeah. Well, look, Brynny, thank you for chatting on the podcast. It was good to finally sit down and speak to you, and hopefully we
finally get it over the line.
Yeah, and look, hopefully if you do come over, we'll get you in the studio and have a face-to-face chat and go from there.
Yeah, that'd be great, man.
All right, man. Thank you for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the AAA podcast, the show that gives you access to hilarious to everything, music, nightlife, and everything in between. If you want to catch up on all of Season 1, be sure to check out our website, www.AAApodcast.com.au. All our episodes are up there. There's a few extra bits of content as well. Other than that, make sure you subscribe, like, comment, share, and we will see you very soon for our next episode.